The second management function is organizing. So when you refresh our knowledge on management, basic understanding about the definitions. So management is basically efficiency and effectiveness, right? So in order to get the efficiency and effectiveness, we need to suppose that you ask the question, why you achieve the efficiency and effectiveness? How you achieve the efficiency and effectiveness? So you may ask this kind of a question, how you achieve the efficiency and effectiveness? Simply the answer is by means of the management functions, right? So you simply achieve the efficiency and effectiveness by means of the basic management functions, right? So as you know, resources are limited. The limited resources can be planned, right? So the planning, how the things are planned is discussed in the planning function. Then organizing function, how the limited resources are organized, organizing principles, the techniques, right? Everything taught in the organizing function, the second function. Third, leading, and fourth, controlling, right? So now we are going to discuss about the second important management function, organizing, right? So as the name implies, what do you mean by organizing? So this is, as you can see, this is how our brain is organized. Simply the brain have two actions. Brain has two actions, right? So two actions in the sense that the left side and right side of the brain has been authorized to do certain activities. So how these two sections have been authorized, so organized in other words, right? So left brain do certain activities, right? And the right brain do certain other activities, right? So all these activities have been divided into two sections, and those two sections are authorized to do those activities, right? So likewise, in an organization, we have various activities to do, right? So for example, if you take university, uh, our main task is to produce a graduate, right? So if you take for your faculty, if you take your faculty, uh, so ultimate objective or main purpose of the faculty of AHS is to produce a graduate, right? So the entire project production of a graduate consists of various activities, right? Various activities. So those activities divided into different people, different sections, right? So simply it means that the production of a graduate is organized, right? So then what do you mean by organization? What do you mean by organization or organizing? So this is the simple meaning of that. Deciding how best to group organizational activities and resources. How best? How best in the sense that as to represent efficiency and effectiveness, right? How best denotes here the denoted by the efficiency and effectiveness. The way all the actions must be targeted towards achieving efficiency and effectiveness. So that is how best, right? Deciding how best to group organizational activities. Like for example, if you take the faculty of AHS, uh, it has divided or grouped the entire graduate production activities into three departments, right? So grouping, you have three departments. I don't know, three or four. Let's say three, right? So entire production activity, production of a graduate uh, is divided into three. And these three divisions have been allocated resources, people and other resources. What are the resources? 5 M's. Check whether your pharmacy department is having those 5 resources. Are you having? The pharmacy department, yes, having, right? The other departments, they have, right? So therefore, the whole activities, the overall activity has been divided into groups, and those groups have been provided resources, limited resources, in order to get the things done, get the entire thing done, right? So simply means that deciding how best to group organizational activities and resources. You plan. Now, once you plan the resources, then you need to get it done. You need to get it done, right? So in doing so, for that task, in order to get the things done, plan things done, you need to organize. Simply organizing means that you divide the activities into various people, various divisions, and allocating resources for them, right? So in this lesson, the focus is to develop the organization structure. Ultimately, the output of this, what do you call this, output of this organizing function is to develop an organization structure, right? So give me a few seconds. I think background noise is not good. Right? So then in this planning, in this organizing activity, in this organizing function, so we have to discuss basic 6 building blocks. Organizing function consists of 6 main features or building blocks, right? So those are designing jobs, grouping jobs, establishing reporting relationship between jobs, distributing authority, coordinating and differentiating between these positions. All these 6 activities, 6 functions, in other words, 6 building blocks, right? So ultimately consist of created the organization function, right? Let's take one by one. Job designing, right? So initially what we do is to design jobs, right? As you take as the example, what is the main activity of AHS, main overall function of the AHS? To produce a graduate. Let's take to produce a pharmacy graduate, right? Uh, so in that case, you need to identify what are the jobs. What is the main job is to develop a graduate, right? So develop a graduate. So in that case, basically, uh, development of a graduate cannot be done in a single for a single person, right? So various, think about the activities, think about how many jobs you have in your faculty, in your department, right? So therefore, it is a lengthy, complex process producing a graduate, right? So that individual, one employee cannot do the entire process. So therefore, the entire activity has been properly designed, right? So into smaller overall activity, overall function, overall activity has been divided into smaller job activities. So those are known as jobs, right? So then you need to identify the jobs and they must be designed, right? So it's simply job designing consists of right, deciding activities. What activities, right? So you know what activities to do. For example, lecturer jobs, right? You take simply a lecturer job. In the lecturer's job, you have to decide what activities he or she need to do, right? So, for example, if you take a PN's job, work aid job, you have work aides, you have lab attendants, you have lab assistants, right? You have clerks, computer application assistant, CAA jobs, computer application assistant job, right? So you have whole attendance, right? Uh, you have examination supervisors, you have lecturers, you have department heads, right? So you have counselors, various jobs are there, right? So the overall, that's how overall function has been splitted into smaller job activities in order to get the things very easily. Get the overall function is easily, to make it easy, right? So therefore, activities, so then you have to divide, you have to identify activities to be done for each and every job. And in order to do these activities, right? So once you identify the activities, you must give the responsibility, right? So responsibility always comes from the top to bottom, right? So which means that department head, vice chancellor need to appoint. You are responsible officially for these activities. You are responsible. This is responsibility. Otherwise, you can't do. You are not authorized to do certain activities. For example, I must have a appointment letter to do this lecture. Otherwise, I won't pay. Right? So therefore, uh, responsibility must be given. That's why appointment letter has been given by the vice chancellor to each and every employee. Right? Which that denotes the responsibility, right? Given by the organization to do certain activities in the job. Then after that, uh, authority, right? Authority. Without authority, you can't perform the activities and responsibilities, right? For example, I am using my authority. Now I am taking my own slides to teach you. I have been given only the syllabus. Now I have designed my own handout and I have designed my own content as per the syllabus, and I'm delivering the lecture, right? So this is my authority exercising. So that has been given by the higher authorities to do the assigned tasks, right? Think about the department heads jobs. Department heads, for example, a particular lecturer refuse assignment submission when you submit it after the deadline, and he is giving you a 0 mark for the assignment, and he has been authorized to do that, right? Evaluations, I simply put a wrong mark to your answer, right? And I at the same time I'm giving you a 0 mark for that answer, right? That has been authorized me. That is my authority, right? So therefore, so these three basic activities, these functionalities need to be designed, need to be determined in the job design, right? So we need to think about in the organizing function. Suppose that, for example, you are going to start a new business, a pharmacy, a drug producing company, right? Simply, let's assume that one of you, just after your graduation, one of you are going to start a pharmacy. Then you need to identify the jobs. You have already, you have clearly planned everything. Now you have to organize the things. Now in organizing the things, what is your ultimate activity that you are going to do? Delivering a service, right? Selling drugs to the patients. So that's, or maybe in other words, producing drugs, right? So for certain diseases. Then in that case, you have to identify what are the jobs, right? So in producing drugs or in selling drugs, in servicing drugs, right? So uh, you need to identify the entire how many sub-activities or activities, what is in the main activity, what are the sub-activities you have to do, right? So those sub-activities categorized into one particular job. That is known as job designing simply, right? So the first activity is job designing. For example, if you take a machinist job, right? The determination of, so here basically this is the meaning, right? Job designing meaning, the determination of an individual's work-related responsibilities. Not only the responsibilities, but also the other things as I told, right? Uh, Basically activities, responsibilities, and authorities are right. For example, if you take the machinist job, suppose that you have to employ a machinist job in your organization. Now you have to determine what machines are to be operated in that job, how they are to be operated, what performance standards are expected, right? So those things need to be considered. Right. So now involve defining areas. Basically, job designing involve defining areas of decision making responsibilities. That is, decision making responsibility simply known as authority. Goals and expectations. What are the goals given? What are the expectations? What level of expectations? Right. From each job. Establishing appropriate indicators for success of success. That is basically how the job success, how you determine whether once, for example, once the job is completed, how you determine that. For example, my job success, job, my performance in the job, for example, lecturer's job performance is evaluated in terms of what? Yes, in terms of the number of A's obtained at the end of the examination. So results produced. That's how the success of my job, right? So performance, what are the performance indicators? Those, that is the technical term using for that. Performance indicators. What are the indicators by which the performance is measured? Otherwise, how can we measure the success or failure of the job? Because we are dealing with limited resources, right? So for each and every job, we give resources. Then we need to check whether the employee is using those resources efficiently and effectively. So in that case, we need to find out uh, whether the employee has performed well or not. For that, we use different criteria, measurement standards, and you need to determine what are the measurement standards we use in a job, in each and every job, right? So that is a part of job designing. Starting point for designing job is determining the level of desired specialization. And another important thing is specialization. For example, to be a university lecturer in, let's say, if you are just after your graduation, you apply for a lecturer's job in the university. So what is the minimum entry qualification for that? What is the minimum entry qualification, as you know, to be a university lecturer, to apply for a university lecturer? Let me know, please. Anyone?
Second upper class.
Yes, minimum you must have a second upper degree, right? Degree with second upper division. That is the minimum qualification that you must have. So which means that you must demonstrate a kind of a certain level of specialization. So you must have certain level of knowledge, skills, and relevant abilities, attitudes, and so on. competencies. So that is known as specialization for each and every job, right? So then you need to determine which level of specialization required for each and every job, right? So then what are the main criteria to be determined in job designing? What are the main ingredients of a job designing? Deciding activities, you can note it down if you want. Deciding activities, what activities to be done, what are the main responsibilities, what are the decision making authorities, the level of specialization required, what are the resources need to be utilized, right? So all these need to be determined in job designing, right? Think about, like, let's say, suppose that if you are going to start a big company, like more than having more than 5,000 employees, so which means that you need, this is organizing function is a very huge complex activity, right? So you need to determine, it takes more time, maybe 1 to 6 months to determine all these functionalities, right? So therefore, job designing is a lengthy process and complicated process, right? So that's job designing. And job specialization, simply, since we discussed about job specialization, this word came on here. So therefore, so we are going to discuss about the specialization. Basic meaning is given in this: the degree to which the overall task of the organization is broken down and divided into smaller component parts, right? So rather than doing the job specialization is clearly visible in a garment factory, simply known as uh, if you take a garment factory, clothing manufacturing organization, or dressmaking company, right? So simply you can see the entire task has been splitted into smaller jobs. So that's what have been uh, applied in a university as well, right? So this is, for example, my job. If you take my job, lecturer's job, so that is a part of a job specialization. I'm teaching only, let's say, management, rather than teaching all the subjects, right? So smaller part I'm doing, right? So dividing into smaller components and parts, that is job division, job designing. In other words, we can simply say job specialization. So in the job specialization, what you do is to divide uh, the entire or the big job activity into a smaller and smaller parts, right? And pros and cons. Pros means advantages, cons means disadvantages. Uh, Specialized and efficiency. So you can simply, once you become specialized, that ultimately increase your speed, efficiency. Cost can be reduced. In a minimum time period, you can do a lot. Your speed may be high, right? So in that case, simply you can increase your efficiency. And the disadvantage, right? If you watch the Charlie Chaplin's Modern Time film, obviously you can understand that, right? You get bored because of the repetition of the same task, right? So therefore, that is a disadvantage. Then the next important activity, once you design jobs, you have already designed all the jobs in the company or in the organization. Now you need to group the jobs, right? So you identified several jobs, right? So you have designed several jobs. Let's say this is a job, this is another job, this is a job, this is another job, right? Likewise, suppose that you are having 5 jobs. Now, in your organization, 6 jobs, right? So those 6 jobs need to be grouped. And these 2 jobs by nature is similar. So they are dealing with similar related activities, right? So then you need to group these 2 jobs into one division. Like, for example, pharmacy department. Now, Department of Pharmacy uh, doing pharmacy related lectures, teaching. So then lecturers are relating to a one particular category, right? So then these 3 another similar category. Let's say MLT, MLS. What is MLTO? Medical laboratory technicians or something, right? So these 3. And you have another one. Let's say suppose that there are 2, right? Another department. So this is grouping jobs, in other words, known as departmentalization. Similar jobs categorized into one particular department or division. So that is simply known as grouping jobs. In other words, we use the same, we use a common terminology for that is departmentalization. Right? Grouping the jobs according to some logical arrangements is called departmentalization. Rationale for departmentalization. Justification for having departmentalization. Why we need to do departmentalization? The answer is when the big organizations are small, right? Simply for like, for example, you have started a pharmacy, you have created a venture in Karapitia Junction, right? So now you can simply manage that. Rationale for departmentalization. So, for example, we were talking about that you are an example, just as take it as you have already started a pharmacy at Karapitia Junction, right? So, like for example, so you can look after that very small boutique type pharmacy. Then you can simply manage that, right? But if you once you have, suppose that you have more customers, more demand for your products, and you think that you need to have a branch, right? So you open a branch in Hirimbura Junction, you open another branch in Kallegana Junction, you open another branch in Gold City, you open another branch in Mahamudra, right? So now you have 5 branches. Can you manage by yourself? No, simply you can't, right? You need to appoint 4 managers or 5 managers, 5 branch heads, right? Karapiti is looking after by you and Kalegan is looking after another. You need to employ few other people. You need to hire few other pharmacy assistants, right? For each, altogether 10 people need to be hired. So simply you your organizations become growing, then owner, you can't manage, you can't personally oversee the everyone, all the activities. So simply once the organization becomes growing, right? So personally supervising become more difficult. So in that case, you need to appoint somebody else on behalf of you, right? So obviously departmentalization comes into play, right? So rationale for departmentalization is simply justified by the reason of becoming the organizations large, right? So answer is when your organization becomes large or grows, you need to simply start departmentalization, right? So that's the main justification. And common basis for departmentalization, what are the bases by which you can departmentalize, you can divisionalize, you can divide different sections. The basis by which, common criteria by which you can departmentalize. One simple classification is based on the functionality. The other one is product, location, and the customer. Let's take one by one, right? Functional departmentalization, right? So most common for smaller organizations. This method, this classification, this departmentalization is most common, popular for very, very small organization, right? So there are a few criticisms. Even for example, if you take our University of Ruhuna, it's a large organization having more than 10,000 employees, right? So even Ruhuna use this functional departmentalization. Groups together those jobs involving the same or similar activities, right? So you can see this picture. So you have the top people on the top, and under these top people, you have different function. For example, production department. If you take a drug producing company, production is production function, production activity, right? Similar synonym for function is activity. Production can be done by a separate division. All the production related activities, jobs have been categorized into this department, right? And marketing, selling and identifying customer needs division. So that is known as marketing, right? And accounts, all the financial related accounting activities done by this department. And personnel, people management, HR department, personnel. A synonym for personnel is HR, human resource management, right? Not personnel, right? Double N is there. Personnel, that's how it spelled. Personnel, HR, right? Human resource management department. Because we have people management can be done in this department. And we have information technologies used overall in the company. And human resource, sorry, IT function, IT activities are overseen by this particular department, right? So this is basically known as functional department, functional departmentalization, functional in the sense that, or in other words, functionality means activity-based department, different activities, functional-based department, right? So we have various functional departments. This is a common department. Oh, sorry, this is a common organization, common departmentalization. And if you take, let's say, a business firm, functional department, you have marketing, finance, production, human resources. If you take a bank branch, so you simply have a branch manager on the top, and you have a assistant manager loans, you have an assistant manager investments, you have assistant manager in operations, trusts, right? Pawning, foreign currency, right? So various other departments are there, depending on the similarity, functionality. And if you take a hospital, right, you have an administrator, hospital administrator, chief administrator, director of a hospital, right? So maybe director of medical staff, nursing, clinics, and patient services, right? So various, depending on the type or size, depending on the nature of the organization, we can divide the departments or departmentalize based on the functionality. Right? If you take a school, you can departmentalize academic, non-academic, right? University, we have academic, non-academic. In the academic division, basically we have 10 faculties. Each faculty is further divided by departments, and departments have lecturers, right? Likewise, you have another functional type, delta manufacturing. This is a manufacturing organization. If you take, for example, garment manufacturing, drug producing company, a manufacturing organization, tire producing company, manufacturing organization. So organization structure, you have human resources, finance, marketing, engineering, manufacturing, procurement, right? So these are the main divisions. Under each divisions you have separate divisions, separate sections. This is the functional departmentalization. Advantages: each department can be staffed by that functional area. Now, let's say, for example, suppose that you just after your graduation, and what type of job you can find, in which department that you are allocated once you have a job. Obviously, pharmacy related department in any organization. A job relevant to your degree. So then obviously you are allocated to a certain job which is located uh, in the area where your job is highly related to, right? So for example, I am having a human resource management degree. Now when I go to the industry, I am allocated to the human resource department. Now I am working in the human resource department in our faculty, right? So that is depending on the functionality, right? Dr. Tusita, he's teaching marketing. Now he is allocated to marketing department. And Mr. Vijita is doing accounting for you. Now he is allocated to the accounting department in our faculty, right? So we are representing 3 departments, right? So advantages. So one advantages, staff can be, each department can be staff. Staff means allocate people depending on their functional area, right? So once, for example, having an engineering degree, then we can allocate him into an engineering department. IT engineering, then IT engineering department, IT department. Civil engineering department, civil related engineering department, irrigation or something, right? HR expert can be hired for the HR function. Marketing expert can be hired for the marketing function. Production expert can be hired for the production function, right? Let's say clinical expert and can be hired for the clinical department in a hospital, right? Supervision is facilitated because an individual manager needs to be similar with only relatively narrow set of skills. Supervision becomes easy. Now, so your pharmacy department head is expertise on pharmacy. She is doing teaching related academic activities in the pharmacy department. Now, all the people in the pharmacy department are pharmacy related, right? So then supervision becomes very easier. Suppose that I am allocated as the head, assigned as the head of your department, pharmacy department head. Now, my management activities become more difficult rather than do your department head, Ms. Kanchana, right? So because I'm not competent enough for that area. I'm competent enough for human resource management. For that, if I'm allocating for that department as a department head, then it becomes very easy for me because I know the subject, I know the area. So then I can manage those people. Even though I'm knowing management, allocating me as the department head in the pharmacy department make me more challengeable or to face the activities to do, right? Because I'm not 100% aware what are the things going on and how the things are being implemented, right? So I'm not competent enough in the subject area, right? So therefore, supervision is easy, facilitated when experts are hired to the relevant department. That is another important advantage. And third advantage is coordinating is very easy. because you are expertise in particular area and appointing you as the job holder, job incumbent in that area, coordinating the entire activities in that area becomes very easy because you are an expert in that area. Then you can coordinate all the activities in that area. Then disadvantages. Decision making tends to become slower. Because why? Because in that department, everybody in that department, everyone in that department are experts, right? A place where we have an expert is very difficult to make a decision. What do you mean by a decision? Decision means selecting an option among various alternatives, right? Selecting an option among various alternatives. When there are experts in our department, one option, selecting an option is become more difficult because if you choose, if you select a particular option, somebody can raise another drawback. If you take another option, somebody else will raise another criticism on that because everyone are experts. So therefore, they are having their own viewpoints, right? Lengthy discussions going on because they are experts. So therefore, they have different viewpoints. So therefore, making a decision tends to become very slow, right? Why that becomes slow? Because we have experts raise different questions. Experts give different criticisms, right? If experts have different viewpoints, right? So they argue, right? So then in that case, making a decision, selecting an option becomes more complicated. It takes time. පණ්ඩිතයෝ ඉන්න තැන තීරණයක් ගන්න හරි අමාරුයි. ඇයි? පණ්ඩිත කතා කියනවනේ හැම කෙනා. එකක් තෝරගත්තොත් ඒකේ අඩුවක් කියනවා. තව එකක් තෝරගත්තොත් තව ඒකේ අඩුවක් කියනවා. ඒ නිසා තීරණයකට එන්න හරි අමාරුයි. Like employee may concentrate their department performance. Another important thing. What your faculty is doing now? Pharmacy department head is trying her best to outperform her department only. And MLT department head is trying his or her best to outperform his department only. Our pharmacy department is trying best her activities, trying her best to outperform the MLT department. No. Right? Is the management faculty department of HR head is trying his best to outperform the pharmacy department? No, they don't forget. But all of us are in the one umbrella, right? Known as Ruhuna University, right? So we all are targeting, or we all are trying to achieve a common vision, but we forget. We have divided by faculties. We have divided. So we are trying our best to become our entity best. And we forget that we are in a one family. We are trying to achieve one vision. Right? So that drawback is there. We have a narrow mindset, which is limited to our department performance only, our faculty performance. Even though we are in one faculty, let's see the behaviors of our department people. MLT department people are categorized, isolated, and pharmacy people are being isolated, and they are trying their own best to become the activities of the department in a higher level. Right? So as a faculty, they don't think, get together. Right? Always because of this inherent classification, inherent division. Right? So departmentalization has that inherent limitation. Right? So competition, employee may concentrate. Pharmacy department may concentrate only the pharmacy department performance rather than the other department's performance, right? So even management faculty is a division of University of Verona. We highly concentrate on our performance only. We don't concentrate on management. We don't concentrate on engineering, medicine, and other faculty. So that concentration of own department is finally affects to the whole university performance. So why is it? How it can be related? Concentration on department. Yes, argument is correct, but in a short time period. So, for example, let's say concentration is on department is finally affects the whole university's performance. Yes, argument is correct, but scholars say that for example, in practical sense, right? In practical sense, because they have their own expertise. They have their own expertise. For example, I am concentrating on my department. For example, rather than concentrating on your department, like for example, what do you call it? How you say that? Rather than teaching, for example, I have a lot of work activities in my department. Now, pharmacy department head asked me to do management, let's say, management lecture in your department. Now I'm refusing by concentrating on my department work only. So in that case, how we can how the pharmacy department head can intervene to management lecture? So can he teach? Can she teach management lecture? Because I am concentrating on my work now. For example, I had to stop the lecture for few minutes because of a problem of my faculty. So I was answering a question. I was answering to a phone call by stopping this lecture. So if I have to concentrate the faculty work in my faculty work thoroughly, then I had to stop the class. I have to cancel the class. Right? That if that is my concern on to my faculty only. Right? So that's how it comes. When people highly concentrate on own tasks, that sometimes may limit the entire organization's performance. For example, if our people, right, for example, pharmacy management lecture remains the same, right? So then your department head called to management dean several times and ask a lecturer, requesting a lecturer. And all the lecturers requested are doing their own work in the faculty and they refuse. Then how can we do this particular lecture, get it done, right? So if you are highly concentrate on your own work, clear? So in that case, there is a tendency to concentrate on job. There is a tendency. That's why it categorized as a drawback, right? Then competition and conflict between functional department. Conflicts can be arise. This is again related to the second bullet point, conflicts. We are trying our best to perform our own department success, right? So management faculty is competing with the pharmacy faculty, pharmacy HS. Engineering faculty is trying to compete with the medicine faculty, right? So ultimately, everybody are competing with each other. That ultimately, as you argue, related to the entire organization's uh, um, success. However, when you are competing with each other, so please remember that once you compete with each other, one is going ahead rather than the other one. Other one is following, right? So which does not mean that the two of them are going together. Our target is to go with together rather than competing with each other. So when there is a competition, one is going ahead and the other one is following. Right? In that case, how we can achieve the common target? Can you understand what I'm telling? Competition simply means that not going together. So we are supposed to go together, sharing. So when competition and conflicts are there, when there is a conflict, one win, the other one lose. Conflicts. No win-win situation. Right? In that case, how we can achieve the common targets, vision and mission of the University of Ruhuna. So we forget that we are in a one family. Right? So we need to have a collaboration. Rather than having collaboration, we are conflicting with each other. So that possibility is there. Can you understand? Lengthen the lines of communication. Right? See, for example, you need to have a batch miss. You need to have a batch miss. Now what you can do? You need to write a letter with strong justification and submit it to the department head. And department head in the department meeting discuss and get the approval and submit it to the faculty board. Now faculty board meeting is held normally once a month. Now you, let's say you submitted your request in the mid or in the mid of the month. Now you have to wait at least 2 weeks, because once a month, normally second week of each month, hold the faculty board meeting. Now you have to wait. There is a lead time, right? You have to wait until the faculty board. At least you have to wait 2 to 3 weeks. Now faculty boards, let's say, get approved. Normally approves that. Once it is approved, you need to send it to the Senate. Faculty board is not the ultimate authority to decide such a request, to determine, to make a decision on such a request, right? So then faculty board can make a decision, and that made decision is need to be sent to the, what do you call this, Senate for a final decision, approval. Senate approval, decision need to be approved by the Senate, right? Senate meeting also is held once a month, right? Again, you need to wait 2 to 3 weeks. And once the Senate approved, you need to have the council approved. Council approval. Finally, the supreme body to make an approval of a university is the council, university council, that consists with all the deans and external members, and the vice chancellor and deputy vice chancellor and the registrar, right? So until you get, till when you get the final decision, it ultimately spent nearly 1 month, right? So because of the different levels in the organization, you have a department, faculty, then Senate, then council, different levels. So when you have different levels, right? When you have different levels, let's take like this. When you have different, suppose that this is the department or organization head, CEO, Chief Executive Officer. And you have mainly two divisions. And you have divided into two. And this one, likewise. Right? So this is the organization structure. And you are somewhere here. Right? So then you need to get the approval of your immediate supervisor. Then once it is approved, you need to get the immediate, send it to the immediate approval of this level, and this level, and this level, and this level, and finally this level, finally this level. Right? So see how many levels need to be passed. Right? In order to get a decision, get it approved, it takes longer time. Right? The classic example is our university, a big organization. Right? So once your organizations become grower and grower, obviously it is having different layers, like this, different layers, levels. Right? So once you have different levels, obviously slow down the decision making, or lines of communication. Lines of communication. Right? We have different lines. This is a line. It's a long line. Right? So once decision is made at this point, in order to pass this decision up to this point, in order to get the approval, final approval, it takes so many time. It takes time. And suppose that this is approved. Once it is approved, and the same decision need to be cascaded down to implement this decision. And again, it takes 1 month. So nearly 2 months you need to spend, and slow down the response time. Like, for example, if you need, like, what these your department head are doing nowadays. I was informed that that your department is going to design a separate department called interdisciplinary or professional studies or something like that, because they asked the help from me to design some courses. You have multidisciplinary department like management, and all other relevant subjects are taught in that department. That is commonly known as that is an idea of vice chancellor when he was he was served as a dean in your faculty. So he intended to form a separate department called professional development, right? So then management related subjects, there are so many management related subjects incorporated into that department, and your department head asks me and help for doing some what do you call this related courses to develop, right? So in that case, suppose that the faculty of AHS is going to have a separate department, right? So in order to implement that, nearly you have to spend 1 year. Right? For example, designing the courses and department requirements and everything, it takes nearly 3 to 6 months. Once the proposal is prepared, need to send to the dean or dean's approval, or the what do you call this, faculty board approval. Then once it is approved, it needs to be sent to the internal quality assurance cell of the faculty. Then it takes another month, 1 to 3 months, because once the proposal is submitted, quality assurance cell evaluates everything. For that they appoint external reviewers, internal reviewers. It takes a lengthy time. Let's say 1 to 6 months is spent, and they have meetings, and through that meeting the proposal is evaluated and fine-tuned and send it back to the faculty board if there are revisions. Then if there are so many revisions, the proposal committee need to revise that, right? So for that, nearly 1 to 3 months spent. Then once it is refined, again need to be revised proposal need to be submitted to the faculty board again. Then faculty board approves. Once it is approved, again sent to the what do you call this, quality cell. Then once quality cell is approved, it need to be sent to the quality assurance unit of the university, entire university. We have a quality assurance unit division. So that is led by Professor NSBM Mathapattu, right? So then quality assurance unit of the university evaluates the entire proposal and appoint external reviewers. And if there are revisions, that needs to be addressed. So that again, 1 to 3 months is spent. And once it is finalized, then again that is sent to the Senate. And once Senate approved, that need to be sent to the council. Once council approved, that need to be sent to the UGC. And UGC have standing committees, and that is discussed in the standing committee. Again, for that, nearly 1 to 6 months is spent. So altogether, nearly maximum 2 years, up to 3 years can be spent for that kind of a task, right? In order to introduce a new department. So nearly 2 to 3 years need to be spent. Clear? So the length of due to the higher levels, due to the different layers in the organizational hierarchy. Right? So if you take a private university, maybe 2 months is more than enough to introduce a new department. Maximum 1 month they can introduce rather than spending 3 years. Right? So because they don't have such a high level of hierarchy, high level of different layers. So we have different layers, right? So those are the disadvantages. You have something like this, right? So don't forget, forget about these things, these lines, right? There are no such lines. That is maybe a problem of the software, right? So you have an organization structure like this. Lines ended from here. There are no lines after that. No lines, right? Uh, so this is the product structure. So if you are producing different types of products like Unilever, like Nestle, right? So you have different product divisions. The classic example is Unilever because when the organization is becoming larger, larger and larger, so this kind of, because you have multiple products, multiple products in the sense that multiple divisions. You keep separate divisions for different products, right? Like Toyota, you have heavy vehicles, you have light vehicles, you have lorries, you have excavators. Likewise, different product wise, you can have divisions, right? So each division have a separate functional structure, as we discussed in the earlier marketing, operations, sales. Likewise, right? So duplication of activities, you have separate marketing departments, 4 marketing departments for all these 4 products, right? Operations departments for all these 4 products separately, right? So this kind of an organization structure can be maintained when your organization becomes very large. Otherwise, it may be it may be costly for you to maintain this kind of duplicated activities in the same organization. But when you have a larger organization, so the high cost incurred can be controlled or managed by the higher income in the organization. So therefore, when you have multiple products produced, in that case, you can have this kind of organization structure. This is product-based organization structure when you have a multiple products, right? For example, HP. You know that HP computers are there. Not only the computers, we have different divisions in the HP department, HP organization in America. This is one division, imaging and printing group. That is basically photocopying, scanners, printers, and so on. Right. So they are producing in this division, and personal systems groups, right? For example, PCs, laptops, tablets, and all these products being produced under this department. Enterprise system groups, enterprise computers, and enterprise softwares like this, right? So HP services, another division, and HP financial services, another division, right? So they are the products they are offering, right? So Hewlett is keeping a product-based organization structure. You have advantages and disadvantages. Please go through them. I think you can understand by reading them. Then customer structure. Again, you have this is again, I don't know what's the problem. Again, you have there are no lines here, right? So line ended up here like this, right? So this is how it is. All the lines are connected to the CO. Right. Customer structure, you have different customers. Like, for example, you are producing goods and services for the army. You are producing goods and services for the navy. You are producing goods and services for the businesses, right? Businesses, for example, let's say you are a milk producer, then you Abevela milk, right? So you produce, you have a different customer, retailers in the sense that John Keels and Keel Super and Cargills. You offer your Keels dairy products to those supermarkets, right? At the same time, you offer your products, milk products, to the yogurt producers, like Kilanka dairies, businesses, to produce yogurt or to produce, let's take dairy related products like cream milk, cheese, right? So you sell. Then industries maybe who are using your product as a raw material. They are using your product as a raw material, right? Uh, is a customer. So therefore, you can keep, when you have a multiple customers, you can keep this kind of an organization structure, customer based organization structure, right? So for example, retail, you have a small, mid-sized customers, industrial, domestic, international customers, military, army, navy, likewise. And again, that has advantages and disadvantages. Just go through them. Then again, this is not needed. Please cut down this slide. Now location structure. Again, you have to connect these lines like this. And there are no lines after this point, right? This is there, ended up somewhere here. And there are no lines. Right? No lines. This is location, because when your organization, like for example, become as a multinational, like Toyota, Philips, LG, what do you call this? Samsung, Microsoft, Google, right? So you can keep this kind of an organization structure. Mostly multinational organizations locating their branches, operations in different parts of the globe, right? North America, there is a vice president, and North America has a separate maybe division, right? Maybe functional division can be formed. Marketing, finance, HR, the same can be maintained in this region as well. South Asia, Latin America, Africa, likewise. So this is a large organization structure, more than 30 to 50,000 employees, right? So that is location structure. Again, advantages enable the organization to respond unique customers and environmental characteristics. Unique customers. India, South Asian region is a unique customer when it compared to the Latin American people, or when it compared to the North American people, or when it compared to the African people. So then, if you are producing the same product and catering the same product to the global community, you can offer them in terms of varieties. For example, now if you take Toyota, right? So Toyota have different, even though the brand is the same, Toyota, and the model is the same. So sorry, not the model, brand is the same. Let's take, for example, Toyota Corolla. Different Corolla models, variants are there offered to the different parts of the world. If you take the Latin American version, it's totally different than the Japanese version. If you take the Indian South Asian version, it's totally different. If you take the classic example, Suzuki, right? Suzuki Maruti Japan version and Suzuki Maruti Indian version, South Asian version. So there are two differences. The same brand is offered in different varieties in order to cater to the different preferences and income levels to the different communities. as per the different tastes and different income levels of different communities. So, right, when you locate the organization structure, for example, they design their own vehicle. Suzuki design, produce, and offer the markets like South Asia, which are totally different than Japanese versions. And if you take Europe versions, totally different than the Japanese and South Asian versions. So they have maintained their own designing facilities, own production facilities, which are located specific, location specific, right? So that is the advantage. We can cater the customers' preferences based on the different locations. Disadvantage is administration cost is very high, because rather than producing one product to the global community, we need to use the same resources different ways. Production capacity in America, production capacity in Europe, production capacity in Japan, and production capacity in Asia. So five production capacities need to be located in different parts, same production capacities, right? So it has high administrative cost, but that high administrative cost can be offset by the higher income when we offer as per the different varieties and tastes of the different people located in different parts of the world. That can be offset.